Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Halloween session of the Fall 2023 series of Tuesday Times Roundtable, AI, the sorting hat of the 21st century and the bias that comes with it. My name is Michelle Zaldivar, your program manager here at the Office of Global Learning Initiatives. TTR is our flagship discussion series that brings together multiple perspectives on current global issues and trends. You can learn more about TTR, watch past recordings, or come back and reference this one at go.fiu.edu/TTR. As we engage in today's session, we ask that everyone please use the mics. We'll have some roaming mics around the audience for any questions or discussion and engagement points that we have. This way, everyone's contributions can be heard on the recording. If you haven't already, please take a moment to sign in. Your sign-in helps support this very student programming. And Medallion students, make sure to take a screenshot of that sign-in so that you can include that on the points log of your GLM progress and points submissions. If you'd like to learn more about the opportunities at the Office of Global Learning Initiatives, including our Medallion program, the Peace Corps Prep program, or our fellowship programs, check out our website at goglobal.fiu.edu/students. Follow us on Instagram at GoGlobalFIU, or come by our advisor drop-in hours. TTR is always grounded in a global issue and trend and is always linked to an article where you can learn more. You can read this week's article at go.fiu.edu/1031. FIU provides anyone with an @fiu.edu email address free digital access to the New York Times. So if you haven't already, you can activate your free digital subscription at accessnyt.com. Our session today is led by Dr. Brenda Lopez, Senior Instructor Technology Specialist at the Office of Educational Technology Services. Dr. Lopez has more than 30 years of experience working with instructional technology. She has worn many professional hats, including being a middle school English teacher. Personal opinion, middle school English teachers are just built differently, and bless you for it. As being a middle school English teacher, a web designer and developer, multimedia producer, instructional designer, and faculty member. Over time, she has become more interested in how technology, including artificial intelligence, can be used to help people learn without barriers. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Lopez.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here on Halloween. Sharing, and we'll try to make this a Halloween party. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so the first thing that I want you guys to do is just take a couple of minutes, point your cameras to this QR code. It's a question that I have for you guys regarding AI and higher ed. So if you'll please go there and answer the question for me. It's a word cloud. All right, so technology, haha. So the question was, what are the hot topics in AI in higher education nowadays? I want to hear some responses from you. What do we got? What can you think of? Yes?
Privacy.
Privacy, okay.
I was thinking using AI to answer essay questions or doing other coursework.
Okay, so you're talking from the student perspective. Okay. Anyone else? Do we have more responses? Anybody that has thought of a different thing?
Possibly use AI to grade or mass grade students, so it can make grading easier, but it depends on whether that grading is fair.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Do I have anybody else?
I feel like it makes learning less personal, and if you're using it for a learning perspective.
Okay. All right. So the topic for today, we're going to focus some of the areas that you just mentioned. We're going to be included in the presentation, but our main concept today would be bias. You can go to the next slide. So we're going to be looking at artificial intelligence, a bias in higher ed. And what we want to focus on and what I propose to you is that AI is the sorting hat of the 21st century, and it comes with bias. And we're going to take a look at what that looks in little by little. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to define artificial intelligence. and looking at a dictionary definition. It is a branch of computer science that deals with the simulation of intelligent behavior in computers. So what we're trying to do is make computers behave like humans, make decisions like humans, consider the things that humans consider when they're making decisions, but being able to do it at a massive level. So we humans have certain limitations, and what we want to do is we want to include technology so it helps us make those decisions. So then an important concept in artificial intelligence science is the algorithm. And an algorithm is basically the step-by-step process for solving a problem or accomplishing a task. So the algorithm is the programming that executes all these kinds of activities that need to take place when somebody is evaluating a lot of data and predicting outcomes. So we are going to focus in only 3 areas of support of AI in higher education. There are many, many more. We're going to be looking at admissions. We're going to be looking at advising and then assessment. And some of the things you mentioned are related to these. We're going to start with admissions. And there are many, many benefits to the use of AI in admissions. For example, one of the first steps when you want to go to college is you want to put together an application, and they ask you to do the application and then your essay or maybe an interview or maybe submit all sorts of different documents that prove that you're this, that, or the other. In my times, I am going to be aging myself, but you would just submit the application, you would just send your transcript, and you're done with it. And life was good. But fast forward to the 21st century, and now we have all these different types of things that the university wants to see with you, about you, but then who is going to take a look at all of that and make sense of it? So this is where AI can come. It can learn about you by reviewing those applications, all of those materials that you submit. Another thing that it can do, once that review is completed, it will create a student profile. So it will create a snapshot of you based on all the data from all the different angles of you that it has collected. And then after that, let's say it creates your student profile and it determines that you will be accepted at the university, then there comes communication. So the universities use chatbots to, for example, you in the middle of the night decided you have a question about financial aid, so you go into the chatbot and you basically get your answer or get referred to where the answer could be. They can send you communications. So, hey, don't forget this deadline. Don't forget the other deadline. Remember to click here. Remember to talk to whoever. And so that is the third area of admissions that AI is having an impact nowadays. I'm going to ask you then another question. This is not going to work out with the Kahoot today. So, did you ever stop to consider the role of AI in your admission process when you came to FIU or when you went to another institution? And so on. Anybody thought about what could AI be doing? Because we know AI is nowadays everywhere, right? You know it is in Amazon, you know it is in Spotify, you know it is in Netflix, you know it's everywhere. So we don't think about it, right? We submit because we're so busy putting together all those documents, and we just basically go submit the documents and we're done with it. But in a minute, we're going to see what is going on with the admissions process when it comes to biases and why it may be important for you to consider this next time that you are submitted to a college admission process or when you're applying for jobs, because you know a similar thing with admissions is happening with hiring as well. So then we move along to this area of advising. So once you're in college, you're assigned a person who will be right there with you, providing you support. Depending on the structure of the university, you'll be receiving more one-to-one or more frequent support, or depending maybe in your situation, you may be having a little bit more freedom because it seems like everything is going as planned. So one of the things that the AI can help that advisor do is to help you in career planning. It takes all of those analytics that are coming from Canvas, all your submissions, your scores, your grades, your participation in activities like this, and any other information that it grabs from you as you interact with in the university and with the website and technologies. And it's basically looking at, well, according to what we're seeing, this person would definitely be a good match with this particular field or that particular field, and it can help the guide the advisor to help you in making decisions. The other thing is, and this is a very, very important one that we have nowadays we didn't have before, you know, the large classes in universities have existed forever. Back in my day, I'm going back again, you had a lecture with 400 students. There was no way, there was no iClicker, there was no way that that instructor knew what was going on in everybody's heads. There was no way that they could keep track of who's failing the class when and now and how can I intervene. So nowadays we have AI looking again at all that data and saying, hey, this person hasn't submitted the last 3 assignments in 5 classes. So it might be worth taking a look at what's going on with them and then nudging them a little bit. Hey, you know, you have a situation, let me see how I can help you, or just nudging them to see if they can get back on track. And then the last area that we're going to cover here is personalization. We talked about that. AI can help personalize the feedback that you get, the help that you get, but also you may be missing out because a person is not there all the time. And depending again on the structure of the university, how they have set up these processes, you may be getting more or less personalized touch with a human person, with an advisor. So then we're going to go into assessment. And one of the things that we mentioned here was auto-grading. Nowadays, the technology is capable of looking through essays, different types of tests. For example, the AI is fed a whole lot of documents from a whole lot of students who have been in your seat, completing the same, writing the same essay about the same issues, and it can grade question at scale. It can also direct feedback. So this person answered this way, so we can help tell them, hey, you should have answered this way, or wow, what a great idea, this was a great thing for you to do. And then the last one is academic integrity. We are looking into, okay, who's writing their own essays? Who is getting them, and before it was who's getting their ideas from other papers, from the web pages, from whatever, and hasn't given credit, the proper credit, or who is copying, nowadays it's who is copying from ChatGPT. And so our technologies can help identify these kinds of things when it comes to assessment. So now let's go and transition to the topic of bias. And what is bias? According to a dictionary, in this case it's a Google Dictionary, which feeds from the Oxford Language Dictionary, it's basically prejudice in favor or against a person or group, and it's usually in a way that is considered unfair. So it is not, it's not considering all the bases, not considering everybody equal. It's just for whatever reason, be it fear, be it lack of contact with a certain type of people, whatever it is, there's a bias. And so what is algorithmic bias? We'll go again to the central concept of the step-by-step procedure. It is the prejudice, when prejudice enters the algorithm and results in inequitable prediction across different identity groups or across different individuals. And this is one of the comments when I was studying this topic. A lawyer that participated in one of the cases, I think we're going to take a look later, said there's a tendency to compute first and ask questions later. And I thought it was a very, very fantastic way of capturing the problem here, what's going on with bias in higher education using AI. So there are 2 types of harm that results from this. One is representational. This group is represented more than this other group. For what reason? For no reason than it wasn't considered. Like the person building all these systems did not consider that this group and this group should be treated equally. And then there's also allocative. I'm going to give you resources, you not so much. AI makes that decision, and based on that bias that comes programmed in it, it is giving you an unfair treat because you also deserve the same resources. And as you know, it's always the same groups. So we have our protected groups, where sex, disability, religion, and so on. But then in AI, you also need to consider other types of characteristics when you are making some decisions. For example, in a situation, maybe the fact that the students come from an urban setting versus a rural setting, it may be important to consider that. Maybe the military affiliation may be important to consider when it comes to giving you financial assistance, when it comes to giving you additional feedback, support, etc. So let's go back to our 3 areas of AI use in higher education, and let's start with admissions. What is going on here? And these are some examples of things that have happened in the literature of the use of AI in higher education. Some of the articles coming from the New York Times, for example. So one of the things that can happen is there could be a bias in admission interviews. So the AI is applied to, let's say, you stood in front of the camera, they recorded the video, AI is applied to all of that, and maybe you have a special way to react when you're nervous, and maybe you do some kind of a facial expression that somebody told the AI, oh, that is not a good person. But it was just you getting nervous. So you are being affected because of the way this was programmed, and not because you are a bad candidate for coming into college or for a position when you're hired. We also have exclusion. So this is when the AI goes and says, remember we said AI is the sorting hat of the 21st century. So the AI said, put you the hat and said, okay, this person doesn't deserve this, go. You're excluded. And also it could be, and this is one of the cases we'll see, placement. So you're asked to take exams, the AI graded your exam, but the previous exams that were fed into the database, it's for the AI to use, were from a community that is entirely different than ours. We have here, we're in Miami, we are very, very international. We have people from a lot of different countries. We are a very heavy Hispanic institutions. We have our ways. And maybe somebody over there didn't consider that AI needs to be relevant. If it's going to be used here, it needs to be relevant to the people here. Yeah, we're Hispanics. Yeah, we like to party, but we also like to study when we have to. So you shouldn't just disregard me because I like partying, right? And that is some of the things that can happen when you take an exam and it's graded against the wrong data, and it's considered, you are considered not worthy of assistance or whatever it is. So benefits in advising. Some of the things that happen, and we talked about career planning, right, before? Well, sorry. The AI is looking at you and it's saying, oh, this person comes from this zip code. And in this zip code, usually people don't go to school, or they don't, they come to school, they flunk, or they just, whatever it is, they are not worthy. So you wanted to be an astronaut and your advisor of the son is telling you, no, go teach science in a school. That will be better for you, right? But you're from that zip code, but it doesn't mean that you will flunk if you're admitted to university, if you are considering this career path. So that is one of the things where AI can be impacting negatively the process of advising. The other one is tied to this one. It's saying, oh, when it's collecting all this data about performance in the courses, it says, oh my God, this person, oh, it's a high risk person. A number of different things could be happening that makes you probably missed a couple of assignments, but that doesn't mean you're going away, you're going to be wasting resources at university. It means that you have a situation at this point in time that makes you do whatever you're doing. But it doesn't mean that, oh, here's the label, go, right? And then what we mentioned before, there's personalization, because the tools can help you, can help provide more specific guidance to you. You're not just getting generic guidance that applies to everybody, but then at the same time, we need that human connection from time to time. And then lastly, assessment. So one of the things that happens is the scoring, which I mentioned before, and you'll notice that some of these things are related to one another. when we go back, everything that we're looking here, when it comes to bias in AI for higher education, it's coming from the same two areas, representation or allocation of resources. So we see the topics come back over and over. So then we're using auto-grading, fantastic, but it's coming from a sample of documents that are not compatible with the group of people that we have here. Or we're using feedback, AI to provide feedback, but then the feedback is determining who to give what feedback and what quality of feedback. And so it may not be the one that you needed, but because it's based on a group of people somewhere, then it's not giving you the right feedback. And the last one, it's academic integrity. And this is about the false positives of cheating instances in proctoring. And this is what brings us to the article that we had today for this presentation. And it is the Tuesday Times. I think this is a link to a PDF file that I have for the article in case you didn't read it. You can take a look at it. And it's basically the story of a, let me see. All right, so this was the article. It's basically a Florida teenager taking an exam using honor log. Honor log, to give it a very brief summary, honor log is deciding that she is doing academic dishonesty and basically because she's doing something that she does because that's the way that she thinks, right? Some of us look this way, some of us do look that way, some of us, look at our hands and do whatever. But when you're doing an honor log exam, you can't look anywhere except the computer, right? And basically the system is saying she's cheating. She wasn't cheating, she was thinking, but now who tells that to the authorities that flagged her and said, you're cheating? For those of you who got to read the article, do you have any ideas about it? Anything that struck you as interesting, important, is something worth remembering or talking about?
I wanted to add something because I took actually an English test once with AI. I had to look the camera. If I looked away, it thought I was cheating, and it put more pressure on me because I wasn't really nervous about the English test. I was nervous about it, thinking I might cheat, even though I wasn't cheating because I don't know, I was nervous more about looking away, but when I'm thinking and concentrating on that rather than concentrating on the actual exam.
How many of you have the same experience when you're taking an exam with honor log or ProctorU or whatever? Is there anybody who really thinks, I'm going to take this exam, they're going to be looking at me and I'm fine? Anybody who feels like that every time? Anybody else wants to share their experience? Oh, we have one over there.
I feel like it just feels more invasive than if someone was just standing there watching me. And especially with the fact that it's connected to my actual device, I'm also worried about privacy, in my device. I don't have anything bad, but there have been stories, and so I'm just, it feels very, I don't know, invasive.
Yep. We have a gentleman back.
In my opinion, I feel like it's fine. Because when you're taking a test in person, people are still proctoring you, right? But the scare is that you don't know. There's the mistrust that you have with AI. I didn't know that honor lock. I know that it sees with the pattern of where you look, but I didn't know it was that bad. That even if you're looking up or, I thought it was just making sure that you stay doing your exam, so you don't walk away and go to the bathroom.
Well, so the idea is they don't want you to be talking to somebody who might be telling you the answers. So if you look that way, you might have somebody over there in that corner, right? If you're looking down, somebody might be sitting in front of you. So these are the kinds of things that the systems want to try to avoid, but also we are not considering that some of us really need to look at different places and, to bring our ideas back to us.
Scans your room. You make sure that the camera goes around so that it makes sure that when you're looking away, you're not looking at anything. So I'm not sure.
Yeah. So, and we're not going to end the conversation here saying, hey guys, protest against AI because it has no future with you guys as students. That is not going to be the subject. But what I want to do is have you think about these things so that you're aware and so that you can prepare. One of the cases that I read in preparation for this is this woman who was taking the exam, but she was in charge of 1 or 2 kids. Of course, the kids are going to be coming in screaming, asking her for milk or cookies or whatever. And she basically had to ignore her the entire couple of hours because she had to take that exam. And so that is one of the things that the creators of these technologies didn't think. Oh yeah, you just put your kids somewhere else and take the exam. That doesn't always happen, right? Okay.
Also, I had a friend who took the bar, and she was wearing a diaper because she wasn't allowed to leave the room to go to the restroom.
Yeah. Yes, there are things that happen to that extent. They're happening today. I hope it doesn't happen to any of you because you came to my talk and you're now prepared, right? Yes? No? Maybe. Okay. So there are 4 areas. So if you think about any system, when you're designing any kind of system, it could be in any subject whatsoever, it goes through stages, right? And some of the stages might be similar, regardless of what the subject is. But we have a system, so when we start talking about that system, we need to consider what is the system going to do. And the first task to do when you're building that system is defining the task. What you want to do is you want to ensure that stakeholders are part of that process. So you are going to be a person who's going to be judged by that system. You should be part of the committee that's building that tool. The people who are going to be making decisions should be part of that committee. It shouldn't just be a matter of a company. They decided this tool is for you, but this tool is about this, but I want to sell it to FIU, but I have some generic data and I'm not going to customize it. That shouldn't be the case. Then we have the data set construction. As I mentioned before, what happens is I need a data set from where to get information that applies to all these different students, right? Yes.
How to word this, but how would AI developers manage to show transparency and lack of bias while also protecting their intellectual properties and copyright for the code? Because like you mentioned, it occurs during development.
That is a huge debate nowadays, precisely for a couple of reasons. One, there's intellectual property. The other one is developers don't really know how things are happening inside the machine. When you talk about machine learning, you're giving it all this data. It's learning by itself. There's no teacher who put together a lesson plan so it would learn this and this and this. So that is another one of the issues. And what's going to happen, in a little bit I'm going to show you, there's legislation that will provide specifically for those kinds of things. It will create some requirements for the companies who work with AI algorithms, so that this can be, so they're going to look at both intellectual property requirements, but also the need for transparency to make that happen. So it's a current big debate in AI use as well. And so what I was going for was the data set construction. So I need a data set, but if I go ahead and choose only data set from Seattle, Washington, the people there are going to be basically very, very different than us, because there's different demographics, different people coming from different places. We are a heavy Cuban and Latin American concentration here. In other countries, maybe in other states, maybe Mexican. In other states, maybe, I don't know, whatever, Chinese or Asians of different places. So when it comes to the data set construction, you have to make sure that you are being representative of the people who are in the area that you want to apply it to. One of the things that happens is when it comes to the data set construction is, oh my goodness, I forgot the idea. It'll come to me. The next stage is model development. And when you have your data set, it's fantastic. You train the model, you train the system with the data. That is the part where nobody knows what's going on. It learns and learns and learns and learns and put together ideas. You know, if you've heard that the end result, sometimes if you go to ChatGPT for an answer to an essay question, it's giving you all the wrong answers because it's reading from people who do not know any knowledge about that topic, and then it doesn't know that they don't know that topic. It's feeding out of them, so it's giving you all the wrong answers. And there you submit a paper with AI information, it turns out it's wrong. So this is one of the areas as well that's very important, and it's being considered nowadays. And then last stage is the action. This is the place where computer company put together the software. It is sold to FIU, and the FIU decision makers are using it to make decisions here. Well, the decision maker needs to know how to use these tools. Because if the decision maker says, oh, look, the data represents the student in this way, that just means this is the student. It doesn't mean, sometimes it doesn't even tell you, do this or do that, but the person is saying, I don't think I like that person, right? No, you have to be trained to know that you have to look at that information, read it without bias, and then make a decision based on it. So those are the 4 areas where these AI bias can be introduced in the system construction. This is the part where we're talking about legislation. The federal government, both houses, the Senate and the House, are putting together laws. The law is called Algorithmic Accountability Act. And basically the purpose is to direct the Federal Trade Commission to require impact assessments. It's certain requirements for the things that you need to make transparent, how to do it, what to submit as evaluation of your own service to ensure that you're being in compliance with these laws. The 2 laws are one from the, that one is very light, sorry. S3572 is from the Senate, and the age 60, I think it's 6580 is from the House. At this point, although the laws are from 2022, they have only been introduced in both organizations. So they haven't even gone past that introduction phase. One of them has been taken to the relevant committees for discussion, but in the other organization it hasn't. So what do I want for you? I want you to be an educated consumer. I want you to think, if I am being subject to AI, when somebody's making a decision for me, go ahead and ask questions. Were the stakeholders involved? Were people like me consulted on the development of this tool so that they provided input? Is the data set representative? Are you using a group of people who are like me? Did you consider that? Was the model tested for performance with minority groups? Because if you develop your model, you give the data, but then you didn't test it with people like me, then it's also a disservice to you. And the last one is, are the users, the decision makers, trained to use the information responsibly and understanding the limitations of the tool? So when the next time you go to a process and you know there's AI, you smell that there might be AI, you think there might be AI, remember to ask these questions. It doesn't hurt, right? To communicate to the employer, to communicate to whoever's making the decisions, hey, did you consider these things? How are we in time? Huh? Okay. We have a few minutes. Let me see if we can do a little exercise here. So I want you to take a look at a case. I have 3 different cases, so I'm going to divide the group in 3. And what you want to do is you want to describe the scenario. You want to identify the area of higher ed AI impact. You want to identify the AI bias problem, and then you want to propose 1 or more solutions based on what we have talked about here today. And so let's say that You guys up to here are going to be group 1, you in the middle, group 2, and then you are going to be group 3. So what you want to do is point your cell phone to the right, to the appropriate number of case. That will lead you to the case. You're going to read about it a little bit and then think about the answers to those questions. If you want to go ahead and talk amongst yourself, you can. And then we're going to have one person from each group present to the others. All right. So let's share with others what the cases were about, what the issues were, what the AI area of use in higher education is, and your potential solutions. I'm going to start with group 1. Group 1, do we have a volunteer? All right. Case 1.
So in our case, we had a group of students, college students of 500 universities. They used a single company that basically has like a risk factor of whether or not they're going to get into college, and more specifically towards their major, so whether or not they're going to get or do good in their major. And they take in like test scores, for example. They take in sometimes like the area that you live in, so not necessarily your gender or your identity, but the area where you live in. And we identified that the higher ed area of impact with AI would be the college students specifically, not necessarily the university, but mainly the individuals.
When it comes to advising admissions or assessment, which are the 3 areas you think it would be relevant?
We said it was advising.
Okay.
That would be relevant because they're the ones helping you plan your future. And if they use that, and we also identified that it was a little bit biased. I'll tell you more a little bit in a while. But we said it would be advising just because they take in information that may not be 100% accurate or 100% reflects who you are and your interests. And that's super important for advising. So the AI bias problem is that, once again, they take in information that is not necessarily reflective of who you are. They take in test scores. And if you're a bad test taker, then you're probably not going to do as good as, I don't know, maybe in math, or maybe in one big aspect was the STEM that they talked about. And maybe people who are bad test takers, but they're really good, like they're really intellectual or really creative or something like that, that doesn't reflect in your test scores. And because of that, they might tell you, oh, don't go to STEM, or don't go to, you know, don't do anything medical or anything like that. But that's actually one of your passions. So we suggested maybe look a little bit into your behavioral analysis and the environment that you grew up in to see what really suits you, your strengths, and what you actually like.
Okay. Any questions for group 1?
I agree with her when it comes with like picking that are less biased, because like zip code might be bias sort of attribute that the model could process, but when we build a model, we'll have some sort of bias that we might not foresee, right? So in this case, even if we have like a good enough model, it would be smart to at least look into the like false negatives and to the negative classifications, right? So we have like, let's say, a student that wants to go like and go into STEM, right? But then the system says that, well, it's a high risk, no?
Right.
It'd be then now the advisor's turn to go look into see if this is actually a false negative or good track, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, group 2. Applause for group 1. Okay, group 2.
So for scenario 2, it was basically an AI that was developed by the government that used data based on trends based on how previous schools tested in A levels, which is like British equivalent for, I guess, like final test here in the U.S. And based on that, on the average and trends, they essentially replaced a test that many of the students during COVID missed and use that information in order to decide the student's final grade. But the problem with that is that it lowered every student's grade tremendously. It ended up affecting mostly lower income communities, those that are and those that went to public schools as opposed to private schools. However, both of them, their grades, even if they were extremely well performing students, despite the fact of where they went, they're both greatly affected by it, and it actually ended up causing them a loss in future internships, university admissions, and so on. So, one problem with that would be that it mostly affects admissions purely because it's giving this false image of every single student's true character based on data that was, I would say, oversaturated, because the data set that they used was from previous years where pandemic wasn't a thing, so there were way more tests. There was more overall, like, a bigger saturation of data in general. And then you compare that to then when the pandemic hit, where there were no tests taken. Basically, most of the year, it was just trying to figure out and going with the flow to see how anything works. So even the students themselves didn't learn to an equal level of previous years, which just overall affects them and their future chances in admissions for basically anything. So a possible solution to this would be, well, first of all, just not implementing that AI, and if you want to keep that AI, it would be to implement it with a sense of an AI can do it because it's too broad, and then it'll end up generalizing everybody. So a better solution would be to look at a singular student and see their overall performance throughout the years and decide, like, through a personal level, so like with a real person, and see how, if like the overall view that you have of them actually fits the character and how they've been doing so far, and like that they can also explain themselves, have a bit better of a better like idea of what went wrong, if they had certain issues or certain things that might have stood out to them.
Thank you. This case was particularly heartbreaking because it was students in their last year of high school, an entire class of students with plans already had been accepted to universities, and they already were looking forward to it, and they were preparing, and they were excited, and the AI came out and said, your grades are lower than they are. Universities looked at that and said, you lost your spot because of that. The entire class of students, many of them just lost their spots after they had been admitted to the universities they wanted. So you can imagine the barrage of lawsuits that came out. All right, so we want to go to group 3, describe the case briefly and describe the possible solution.
So we have a scenario where like that's pretty similar to what she explained. So there's a law student that she just graduated on May, and she's gonna take the bar exam on New York, but before that she needs to take a mock exam online, all based on an app. And the mock exam is like where the AI is checking your facial expressions and the lighting and stuff. And because she was in an environment where light is like so bright, the AI couldn't recognize her face, and she couldn't like do her test for a long time. So the thing was pausing all the time, and they were like, fix your light, fix your light. So the problem in this scenario is that the AI needs more time to be developed, because these things can happen, like the lighting and so many things, and AI is not like notifying you, just saying you cannot do the test. So I believe like more research should be done, and a new, like, maybe before you start the exam, AI should like tell you what the lighting should be, or which environment you should be on, or like you can show the where you're doing the test like 360, you can record before, so AI checks if it's applicable or not. So yeah, that's what I think about the scenario.
Okay, thank you. Applause for group 2 and 3, I forgot. You guys have done great. If you don't remember anything else from this talk, just remember that AI is the sorting hat of the 21st century. And you want to make sure that you don't take it like Harry Potter. He just stood there and waited for it to decide we're going there. You want to have your eyes open to see and make sure that you're being considered. Even if you're told no, it doesn't hurt to ask what happened. Here's me. This is what I can do. I'm different than your data set. Those kinds of things you can do. So when you receive, oh, and this is a quote that I found interesting as well, a past built on bias will be a future with bias built in. So you're going to receive the presentation. You're going to have links to the presentation file plus the 3 cases and a bibliography. I will also make this available for Michelle to give it to you. And I hope you've enjoyed the talk. I hope that your time has been worth spending with me today. And if you have any questions, you can find me on LinkedIn as well. Good luck, everybody, with your AI encounters in life. Yep.
One more round of applause for an absolutely fantastic presentation today. Thank you all so much for being here. Oh, my presentation went haywire. That's okay. So TTR returns to online for the rest of the semester. So if you want to join us again next week, we will be online as well as the week after that, where we'll have the Global Indigenous Forum leading a session called Healing the Everglades, Indigenous Perspectives from PBS's Native America, featuring Betty Osceola of the Panther Clan. Really fantastic, really unique opportunity. It will be fully online. You can register at go.fiu.edu/TTR online. Otherwise, I hope you have a very wonderful day. Enjoy Halloween. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other.